Cole over 5 innings of work, allowing the 5 runs, 7 hits, 7 strikeouts. He gives up the two home runs as well. You look at the Texas Rangers were going nowhere quick this year, had lost, 6 in a row going into the game last night. We were talking about yesterday during the course of the program, how good is it to have Garrett Cole, going on a Monday after a loss down in Baltimore against the Orioles, where you could not sweep away Baltimore. Well, Garrett Cole last night in Texas was not good. I mean, that's it. He's been great up until this point. We've had the conversation about, best pitcher in New York now that Jacob deGrom is on the IL, and one start does not factor in of just how good Garrett Cole has been for this Yankee team, but he was not good. And the other issue that the Yankees have right now is that the offense is not there to pick up a bad starter. It's just not. You look at the bottom 4 or 5 guys in that lineup, 4 of them are hitting under 200. Sanchez took an 0 for last night. You had Stanton going on the IL. The setback with Zach Britton. The team's offense, when you look at the home runs, they've hit some home runs this year, but they have not been of the 2 or 3 home run variety. It's been more of the solo shot as you got from Luke Voit late in the game. So overall, Maggie, they can't win games like you're accustomed to the Yankees winning games, where they just bludgeon bad pitching and they put up, 11, 12, 13 runs and they make it an absolute laugher. So you have not seen much of that this year, if at all, from this Yankee lineup. We've talked about offense being down across Major League Baseball, and when you look at their ace last night in Texas, Cole didn't give him a winnable start. He was not good, and he knew it, as he said after the game, right from the word go, that he didn't have the stuff that he was accustomed to, that he's had pretty much every start this entire season up until this point. And unfortunately, the Yankees did nothing offensively. I mean, they were 1 for 4 as a team with runners in scoring position. They left 4 guys on base the entire night. They did nothing offensively in an ugly 5-2 loss to Texas.
Well, and they did it, Moose, against a guy who came into this game for the Texas Rangers who was pitching to an over 6 ERA in a new stadium that's a hitter-friendly stadium. And, if you're not going to be able to get it done on a night like that, when everything, despite Stanton going on the IL and despite some of the injury issues that you've had with Hicks and others, if you can't get it done against that guy, even if you have Garrett Cole doesn't have his best stuff, when are the Yankees going to make someone really pay beyond the Baltimore Orioles, And listen, now they're 5-4 in Cole starts. That's very Mets and DeGrom-like, something you never want to see. You want to be having a better record as a team when you have your ace on the mound. And now, is it too much to ask the rest of the offense to pick up your ace when he might not have his absolute best stuff? They just couldn't do it. You mentioned the home runs, and I thought this number was fascinating, and thanks so much to Sarah Langs, who does a great job. Katie Sharp of StatHead. 70% of the home runs the Yankees have hit this season, 70% have been solo home runs. 70% of the home runs have been solo home runs, the highest rate in Major League Baseball. I mean, Moose, they just are not doing enough damage with what is their greatest strength, which is the ability to hit home runs. Solo home runs, though, what team in baseball is going to be worried about solo home runs? Nobody. You would even say that for the Yankees as a pitching staff. Okay, you give up a couple solo home runs, you keep you in the game. That's what the Yankees should be built on. The pitching has actually been steady for them through the first quarter of the season. The offense has not been there to match. And if they are going to be a home run hitting team, but it's going to be solo shots, well, then it's going to be a long season here for the Yankees. And what I think about it, and listen, they're coming off, they won 5 straight series. We're not, sky is falling here. But, ask yourself this, Moose. When someone says to you, what's the identity of the New York Yankees through a quarter of the season, which is not an insignificant sample size, do you actually know? We know what it should be. What is it?
Well, the offense should be leading the way, and it's not right now. I mean, the pitching staff as of late has probably been the identity.
Right, which is
great. They've been really good.
Which has been great, but ultimately not how essentially the Yankees were built to win in the regular season. Now, listen, if they're going to continue to win series, and if this was just a blip last night and they find some offense, but honestly, what would give you that indication? And unfortunately, they're getting setback after setback, and the injury woes are here again. I mean, it's just a weird time for the Yankees. A very, very weird time.
Well, I mean, listen, they are missing Stanton, and they're missing Gleyber Torres,
and
which
Hicks
are 2 key parts to that lineup. And Hicks, I mean, to a lesser extent. I mean, the other 2 guys are much better offensive players than Aaron Hicks. But yes, they're also missing Aaron Hicks as well. But still, this lineup, I mean, Sanchez, a $185, Brett Gardner's hitting 188, Clint Frazier, 151, Kyle Higashioka's hitting 185. And then you get to Wade, who's barely had any at-bats. He took an over last night, and he's hitting 280. I mean, that is the bottom 5 guys in your lineup last night. I mean, that is just dreadful. I mean, a ton of offers, a ton of strikeouts when you see this lineup last night down in Texas. You mentioned it against the starter in Lyles, who's not an upper echelon starter in the American League. It's just bad right now. So going into the year, clearly you looked at this Yankee team and you thought that the identity was going to be the offense. That's what was going to make up for the issues in the rotation early on. That's what's going to make up for the defensive deficiencies in the field. We talked about it, right? I mean, Sweeney, did a podcast on it, talked about it. We mentioned it at the time. So the offense has not been there. I mean, are they going to get there at some point? Are they going to change the direction? I mean, you can't imagine Clint Frazier is going to hit a $151 the entire year. You got to imagine that some of the other bats, when they do get Gleyber Torres and hopefully Giancarlo Stanton, hopefully it's just a 10-day IL stint for Giancarlo Stanton, where before he's back after suffering that quad injury, Maggie. But when they get those guys back in the lineup, maybe this offense does get going a little bit. But clearly, it's not what you thought it was going to be. Listen, it's one loss in Texas. You don't like losing 2 straight games to the Orioles and the Rangers. And when you go to a hitters-friendly ballpark, even without bad, the bottom 5 in the lineup was last night statistically. You said, well, they're going to get their offense clicking a little bit tonight. And they did nothing. I mean, not only was it a decidedly below average Garrett Cole start, Abreu stepped in. He pitched 3 unbelievable hitless innings. Then he gets sent down, to AAA right after the game. You might see Rougned Odor activated from the IL tonight before Game 2 against the Texas Rangers. There was just little to no offense at all. I mean, you got nothing from that lineup last night at all. And when they fell behind, Maggie, you just got a sense that the way that lineup was going, that it was almost insurmountable. It never felt that way with the Yankees in quite some time. It did feel that way last night. Listen, it's just one game, but the lineup was bad, and the offense has not been inconsistent and at times non-existent at times as well this year.
Well, and there's numbers to back that up because, again, thanks to Katie Sharp, but the Yankees are 0 for 11 in games in which they've allowed 5 or more runs. And unless it's the Baltimore Orioles, they have a really hard time digging themselves out of any kind of hole. And that's definitely not what we thought about this Yankee team,
No.
which would be dangerous all the time no matter what, and they're always a threat, and every inning could end up being a big inning. They're not having big innings. They're just not having big innings. You're not used to, what we've seen at times where the Yankees just all of a sudden break one open. You're waiting. Listen, they're barely getting guys on base. You're waiting. It's just that big inning is just not happening. And so, listen, you're excited, I guess, to get Rougned Odor back, who's hitting a $160 because you could put DJ now or Urshela.
He's got good energy, Maggie. He's got good energy.
But I guess this means you can shuffle some things around the infield. It gives you a little bit more flexibility so that you can put Urshela at short. You could have DJ playing third so Miguel Andujar can play left field, and then Gardy or Frazier and if you need him in right if Judge is going to DH, or if you're going to shuffle around the outfield too, and you get Odor back so you can get a better lineup in there, better defensively. I don't know. It's like you got Joel Sherman in the Post writing about how they could trade for a center fielder. It's they just traded away Mike Tauchman. Now you're going to talk about bringing in Ketel Marte. It's just it's a team I feel like that's still searching, and that's fine. No roster's ever a finished product. But did you think it was going to be after a quarter of the season you'd still have this many question marks about who the Yankees are?
No, probably not. I mean, you probably never envisioned it because I think we all thought what it was going to be. Now, maybe in the end, Maggie, maybe they'll be better off for it. Maybe the struggles early on in the season, what they're going through right now, the inconsistencies with the offense, maybe they'll be that much stronger at the end of the year because they went through this, because they didn't go through everybody like we expected them to go through it offensively and putting up these crooked numbers and unbelievable innings and, as you mentioned, breaking games open. You haven't seen that. It's an unbelievable stat when you think about it. When the Yankees give up 5 or more runs, they have not won a baseball game this year. Think about that. Think about this lineup and what outside the Baltimore. Think about this lineup and what you thought they were going to be and exactly what they are. That is an alarming stat when you think about it. The home runs to a lesser extent, because sometimes it just is what it is, right? As long as you're hitting the ball over the fence, and you'd rather give up the solo shot if you're a starting pitcher than the 2 or 3 run home run for sure. You have to believe that they're going to get more guys on base, but think about, they are winless when their staff gives up 5 or more runs. I mean, that's amazing. And we're sitting here on Tuesday, May the 18th. And that is what this Yankees lineup has not done this year, which is the ability to come back, make up for pitching deficiencies. And, we mentioned it. I mean, they had one star after another. Now, we know their lineup is not whole right now, but still, it's good enough not to make Lyles look like the way that they did last night, which was they did nothing. When it was 5-1 in the 5th or 6th inning last night, 6th inning, when the Rangers put across that run, Maggie, I thought the game was over. I mean, I really did. Like, I didn't think, watching the last 3 innings of that game, I didn't think the Yankees were coming back and win that game. You get the solo shot by Voit in the 8th. I just didn't get a sense that the Yankees were going to rally from 5-1 down. And there have been other years, 2019, to a lesser extent last year, where you still had confidence, 9 outs to go, down 4 runs, that this lineup is going to be able to make something go. Just don't get that sense right now.
Oh, man. I mean, that like those kind of comebacks like that, I mean, at one point were like a Yankee calling card, that you could be able to make up for runs and deficiencies at any point in the game. It wasn't always just getting out to big starts, but when I don't have confidence in the Yankees now, like, I'll still hold out that hope, but it's just when you got the bottom of the order coming up. So, like, 9th inning last night, well, it was 5-2 at that point, but you got Urshela, who's been awesome, but he grounds out, and then Sanchez strikes out, and then Gardner flies out. Like, when I see Gardner and Sanchez, and that's your comeback hope, and I know Gardner had the triple, but, like, that makes me think that they're probably cooked. That when it's the bottom of the order right now. I'll still say for the guys like Judge and LeMahieu, Luke Voit, Urshela, I mean, for the most part, like, I still believe those guys could actually rally and get something done, but once you get to the bottom of the order, it's like, just turn off the lights. I mean, it's out. It's over.